We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and I'm going to go ahead and everyone is present this evening except Councilmember Carlton, who I believe will be calling in later in the evening. I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity to introduce everyone. So to the left of us, we have our City Manager, Bill McClure. Immediately to his right, City Attorney. Oh, geez. It's been a while. I apologize. Our City Attorney, Bill McClure. To his right is our City Manager, Starley Jerome Robinson. To my left is our Vice Mayor, Cecilia Taylor. My name is Ray Mueller. To my right is Councilmember Betsy Nash. To her right is Councilmember Drew Combs. And then down off the dais is our City Clerk, Judy Herron. If you want to speak this evening, if you could please go ahead and sit down with Ms. Herron and fill out a comment card so we can go ahead and have record of who you are and what item you want to speak on. At this time, if everyone could please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and report out on the closed session. There was no action taken in the closed session this evening, so there's nothing to report. I'm going to go ahead and come down now for the commendations. So good evening. So we like to make a tradition here of honoring people who've made a difference in the city at the start of every meeting. Menlo Park, one of the things that we love about this community is that community members give so much of themselves, and so do our staff members, to make this a really wonderful place to live. And so tonight, there were two events that happened recently in Menlo Park, and we really wanted to take a moment to honor our staff who really went in both circumstances, went above and beyond the call to really create these community events for our residents. So the first event we want to talk about is our tree lighting ceremony. The tree lighting ceremony has been taking place now. It was revived about 5 years ago, I think, approximately. And every year it seems to get better. But this year, the tree lighting ceremony, frankly, we were a little concerned about it because we had lost some city staff who had been key in planning it, and we weren't sure how it was going to be pulled off. And I remember leading up to that week, I was thinking, how is this going to be? And then that night, it was truly magical. I mean, it was really it was unbelievable. There were the king and queen of the ice walking on stilts. There was a ballerina dancing in a ball. It literally ended with snow falling from the sky. It was incredible. And what was really amazing about that our city manager can attest to, is how many different staff members had stepped in to help pull that event off, new staff members to the city. And so we wanted to go ahead and honor those staff members tonight. And our Public Works supervisor from Fleet, Myra Lombero, is going to be accepting on behalf of Community Services. And then Public Works Supervisor Fleet, Don Weber, and Public Works Supervisor for Streets, Hugo Torres, are going to be accepting on behalf of Public Works. If you could go ahead and join me up here, I'd really appreciate it. Did I pronounce your names right? Yeah, close enough? You tell me how to pronounce it right. I want to put it in the record right. You guys, it was amazing.
Myra Lombera and Don Weber and Hugo.
Myra Lombera, Don Weber, and Hugo Torres. Great, okay. So I have a lot of, as you can see here. So let me go ahead and get those for you. I just hand all of these to you guys. And I want to read the names of the individuals who helped us with this event. So from Community Services, we had Myra Lumbero, Gary Olson, Adrian Lee Bird, Natalia Jones, Todd Zio, Gladys Tovar. From Public Works, we had Don Weber, Julio Martel, Bill Halleck, Eva Munoz, Gabriel Ortiz, Eric Ayala, is that right? Ayala, Arturo Robles, Leno Perez, Natividad Alamo, Nelson Gutierrez, Hugo Torres, and Jocelyn Padilla. So I really, please tell your staff how much we appreciate it. It was really awesome this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, please round of applause. You guys want to come down? Come down for the picture.
Are we gonna fit?
Yeah, we'll fit. I'll stand in the back. You can stand here. All right. Do you guys? Yeah, great. I also want to thank the Historical Society for helping us light the tree that evening. So the next group the next event that we want to talk about, and council members, if you guys just want to stay down here, I'm going to call you back down, so you're going to get used to this. The next event that we want to talk about, so we had something happen that was memorable this year in Menlo Park. For the first time in the history of the city, our football team won the state championship, which, yeah, it was pretty cool. And we decided that we wanted to really celebrate that in a grand style, and so I always was looking for an excuse to have a parade, and we finally found one. But the thing about that is when you go to your staff members and you tell them on short notice you want to have a parade, that's a pretty big undertaking. And I remember the school called and they said, they were interested in doing it, and I was excited to do it. And I called city staff and I was a little nervous about it, and city staff was awesome. I mean, they just jumped right in. They wanted to do it for the city. There was no pushback, and I was so impressed when I came down to City Hall, and Starla, our city manager, indicated to me that she'd already met with key staff members in the city, and they're trying to find a route. And then I saw Derek outside, and he said, "Boy, man, you sure caused a lot of work for us." And he laughed, and he said, "But they were so excited to do it." So tonight, in the event, unfortunately, I couldn't be there. And so I'm getting texts and updates from residents. But what was great was Vice Mayor Taylor showed up and stood in for me. But the people, I got updates from Vice Mayor Taylor, and I got updates from the city manager. But the people I heard from first were residents who were there, who were sending pictures, who had kids there in the event, and how much they appreciated it pulling the community together. And so again, just really want to thank staff for all of that short notice work. So if we can go ahead and bring up again for that, we have, looks like the same people, as well as Sergeant Romero. So if you guys want to come back, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so I'm going to read off the names again, and then also from the police department. So for community services, we had Todd Zio, Gary Olson, Savina Krakowski. Is that correct? Krakowski. Public Works, Don Weber, Gabriel Ortiz, Gary Lundstrom, Dimitri Katsaros, Natividad Alamo, Hector Cypris, Julio Martel, Bill Halleck, Alan Olson, Leno Perez, and Eva Munoz. And then from the police department, we had Community Service Officer Kumar, Sergeant Romero, Corporal Adair, Corporal Fu, Officer Fleig, Dispatcher Lindsay, Parking Officer Sharma, Parking Officer Rios, Sergeant Cooley, Officer Baronvilla, Officer Dale, Officer Nuri, Officer Knopp, and Officer Mazan. So if we could have a round of applause for all of them. And again, I just thank you so much on short notice pulling that together. And we didn't have our management team who helped pull that together. It seems like everyone else got commendations, which I didn't know about. But I want to say to our management team, thank you so much too for your work on this. I know how much work it was liaisoning also with the high school district for that. So if we could go ahead and take another picture for that. We have to make sure, Sergeant, that you get in the picture if we can't use it twice. Ms. Heron, do you want to give Councilmember Carlton a call? So we're going to pause a moment and call Councilmember Carlton so she can join the meeting.
Your call did not go through. Please try. Hello?
Hi, Councilmember Carlton. Are you able to hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We're going to begin public comment.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and move to public comment now. Under public comment, the public may address the City Council on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the City Council once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The City Council cannot act on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, the City Council cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. I always like to add to this, to all of this, always remember to never underestimate the power of a sharp mind, a sincere heart, and a kind voice. Does anyone have, do we have any public comment cards this evening? Yes. Okay, so at this time I'm going to go ahead and call to the lector Craig Cornelius.
Good evening. My name is Craig Cornelius. I live in West Menlo Park in the county, but my family has property that is near downtown, rental property, a triplex, and I have a few questions for clarification on the tenant relocation ordinance. First of all, the first question is the sale of a property a landlord-caused termination? That is unclear at this time. Second point, on the sale of a property, can the new owner adjust the rent over the CPI plus 5% of the previous rent without kicking in the penalty or triggering the penalty? This is important because we are considering selling this property. We've owned it a long time. The rents are probably below market, and we want to know what the impact on the possible sale price would be. Does month-to-month lease differ from long-term leases in this consideration? In other words, does it matter if the lease has been there for a year and one wants to raise it, or can the rate be raised more often? In other words, what does the CPI plus 5% mean in terms of number of times per year it can be done? All of these are unclear in what we've seen so far, and I'd appreciate any comment or clarification that can be given. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornelius. So the the tenant relocation ordinance won't be heard this evening, but I do want to direct you to go ahead and speak to our city attorney. He'll be able to answer those questions and clarify the process for you. The next speaker we have this evening is Kathy Oyster.
I'm also speaking or making comment on the tenant relocation ordinance. That was a great ceremony you put forward, and it shows how Menlo Park residents strive to excel. And I have to say I'm disappointed that Menlo Park is not striving to allow not just regular business owners to excel and our community to excel. They're actually depressing a business class called landlords, people who own property, and they endeavor to maintain and improve that property. When there were people in our community that could not afford to live here, we raised the minimum wage. We supplied them with an opportunity to lift up and have gains. This seems to be the only industry where communities are choosing to cap or put a control on the ability to earn money in a business. And for some reason, it's not seen as a positive growth for the community. Those funds that might be used to put solar on our buildings, on roofs that are huge and vast, but really there's no economic incentive. How could they possibly do it with CPI plus 5, for instance? I'd really like the council to consider ways that we can approach our community, and sure, there needs to be more support. There's always going to be bad actors. We need to stop that behavior. However, we don't do it by taking a class of businesses and depressing them. I think that the items are overreaching with a creatively identified rent control ordinance. When business owners took a $15 an hour minimum wage, and quite honestly, I know that the businesses in Menlo Park are paying much more than that, and they're able to do that when the consumer can say, yes, I believe in this too. I will pay $9 for your hamburger, or whatever it may be, because we value our neighbors. So I would endeavor, as a council member, I would hope that you would endeavor to support and raise up all of your business people.
Thank you, Ms. Oyster. Our next speaker this evening is Gregory Faries.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Greg Ferris. I'm a member. I live in the county, 2042 Santa Cruz Avenue. I wanted to thank you all for your service to Menlo Park. And I want to say that I'm part of a community that wants to be part of Menlo Park. So we're part of the Triangle, which is bounded by Santa Cruz Avenue, the Alameda, and Sharon. So there are three sides to our block. All three sides touch the city. So it's kind of bizarre that we're not part of the city. And we've put in a petition to the city to be annexed. So in terms of a timeline, we began speaking to the city in 2014, 5 years ago. 2015, we put in a formal application, both to the city and to LAFCO, whose job it is to try to get these little chunks of unincorporated county into the city. We raised money among the neighbors. It was not easy, but we raised about $10,000 $7,000 went to the city as part of our application, $3,000 to LAFCO. And we're urging the council to move ahead with our application. I think there's only good that can come out of this. There's maintaining a uniform character across where we are and the rest of the county. Police jurisdiction, or just on our triangle, there's 5 places where jurisdiction changes from county sheriff to Menlo Park Police. And that it doesn't make any sense. In terms of safe routes to school, I mean, we're bounded by Santa Cruz Avenue and the Alameda, busy routes. Children that have to get from one side of Menlo Park to La Entrada, they go right through where we are. And they're going from city into county into city. That makes sense to do that. The county wants us to join. I've spoken with Don Horsley. He wants this to happen. There's better tree protection in the city than in the county. There's different zoning, which could get uniformity of, I guess, the character. We view this as, obviously this is just a part of all the unincorporated territory, but we view this as a pilot program. The city has not done any annexations since the early 90s, and so it's an opportunity to kind of start in on annexation, and then I think a lot of good can come out of making Menlo Park into one greater piece. And for us, we'd like to be part of Menlo Park. We'd like to be able to vote. We'd like to be able to participate better. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Our next speaker this evening is Meg McGraw-Sher.
Hi, I'm Meg McGraw-Sher. I'm a resident of Menlo Park, and I'm also the chair of the Menlo Park Housing Commission. And I'm really sorry I wasn't able to come and register public comment prior to the closed session today, talking about the tenant relocation assistance, because that's what I wanted to talk to you all about. I know that Commissioner Grove was able to come and share some comments with you, but I wanted, and I don't want to go into the details of the ordinance right now. I kind of want to talk about it at a more macro level. As many of you know, the commissions are appointed by the council, and us on the Housing Commission, it's our role to really think very clearly and very in-depth ways about around housing issues here in Menlo Park. So the last 6 months, we have chosen to talk about and pick apart and craft the best tenant relocation ordinance we could come up with. There has been so much displacement in this city over the last several years, and this is a drop in the bucket. This is such a small thing that can hopefully help those who are most in need. We probably took, I think it was 3 meetings to really pick apart things. We then had 2 community meetings, and it was great because we had people come from both sides of the issue. But if any of you had been there and you heard what families are going through who are suffering from landlords, not all landlords, but landlords who have decided that they need to make a lot of money and raise rents on people who have lived in this community longer than I have, probably than a lot of the people in this room. I mean, 10, 15, 20 years. I've only lived here 8 years. People who have lived in this community and this is their home. And a few bad players, are deciding that they want to make a lot of money and they raise rents more than they should. The relocation ordinance isn't rent control. It's not preventing anyone from raising rents. It's saying if you raise rents over a certain level that's considered extreme, you're going to have to help that family by providing some assistance so that they can find another place to live. And I don't know about you guys, but as a housing commissioner, I'm not elected, but I take my role really seriously. I feel like it's my moral obligation to make sure that I'm thinking about everyone who lives here. So many people are benefiting from the economic boom in this town, and there's problems that come with that too. And this is one of them. This is such a small thing that we can do to make a really big difference for people and hopefully prevent some bad behavior. So I understand there's some fear of a lawsuit. I've also heard that that's kind of not really something to be too concerned about. I'm asking you all to not put this to the side, to not wait and see what happens in Santa Cruz with the law that's very similar. I'm asking you to say, I believe in protecting everybody here in Menlo Park. And we've got to do it now. People are losing their homes. Every day we wait, there's people who are losing their homes. And again, this is so small This is such a small thing to do for people who really need it. So thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Our next speaker this evening is Rose Bickerstaff.
But it didn't work. Good evening. I'm Rose Bickerstaff, and I've been in this community for too many decades. So I just want to say to heads of our department, the mayor, vice mayor, council, I just want to have just a couple of observations. Each time we have a new council, there's always a lot of hope. I thank you all for the commitment to take this on and the hard work that you had to go through to earn your spots. And hopefully you'll have a successful, along with all of us, a successful year. But I wanted to just say that, you know, this year makes a big difference because we are voting in districts. And that means the 20-plus neighborhoods that we have in this city. Maybe a little more than that, but at my age, who cares? It may be 22, 23, but anyway, we have 20-plus neighborhoods. And maybe this time, in that physical checkup that we have every year, that all of the neighborhoods will be included, because District 1 has been certainly left out. I mean, we haven't had that inclusive physical checkup, and yet this city thinks that we have a healthy body. But how can you have a healthy body if part of that body isn't being checked over and given a clean bill of health? And that's how I like to look at this. And yet we are in the district that provides most of the revenue that carries this city, and yet left out most of the time. And I only have 3 minutes, and by the way, someone can give me a finger. Well, I should say put up one finger. Don't give it to me. But thank you when I get nearing to the end. But anyway, I just want to say one way that I see we can save 50% of our budget for a consultant. I don't see why we spend so much money, see my mouth getting dry already, on consultants, when in every district in this city we have brilliant people. And it would be a good idea if we could form a committee of consultants right in this city, because who better know what this city needs than the people who live in it? And I'm going to tell you, I'm finished with the sheets of dots that we are given when we have these consultant teams come around, and as far as I'm concerned, it's wasting my time. That quick? Oh, my goodness. But anyway, I just want to say that one other little thing, and I'll make it quick. I'm on the Police Advisory Board, and we see a lot of needs in the police department. So when you hear suggestions of the needs that we have, please listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker this evening is Mary Ann Young.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing me. I'm a small business owner in Menlo Park. I started my business here 10 years ago, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have a fairly successful small tailoring business, and I appreciate all of the people that support small business here in Menlo Park. I'm here to just voice myself about the fact that I understand that housing is a really major issue and hot topic here, and for those who are living here and having the privileges that are afforded to those who are able to live in this beautiful community, I know there are upsides and downsides to every city, and I understand that the upside is that many people who own homes here can rent them out and make money and be able to have some sort of livelihood and perhaps retirement. And I don't begrudge anyone of any of that. However, I do want to say that I do support those who are getting rents raised, that they would get assistance if they had to leave because they could not afford to stay in their present home because of the fact that the rent was being raised. So I do support assistance for them and allowing them to be able to find an affordable place for them to live in the meantime. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead now. Excuse me, are there any more comment cards? Thank you. This time, we're going to go ahead and move on to commission reports, item G. And item G1 is to consider applicants and make appointments to fill unexpected vacancies on the various city commissions and committees. I'm going to go ahead and first open public comment. Do we have any public comments on this? We have 2. Okay. I'm going to call our first speaker, Ms. Bramblett.
Hello, Council. First, it's very nice to see our new council members up there. My main comment is that the term unexpected vacancies I found a little troubling, and I understand why someone moves, they get elected to council, but if someone's quitting early, as I know has happened, I think we ought to find out more and not just, for them. So I wanted to make the suggestion that as part of our general process improvement here and more transparency, we add brief details. And I'm not talking about invading someone's privacy, but if we could, add some details. If you don't think that's appropriate, at minimum, I think a short survey at the end of someone's service would be good, towards process improvement. And if someone does quit early, I think a short exit interview would be in order too. And then the information, of course, funneled into improving the roles of the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call up Mr. Dorn.
Hi, my name is Michael Dorn. I live at 1258 Santa Cruz Avenue. I think all of you know me by now, or at least have met me by now. And I am applying for a position on the Planning Commission. Again, officially, this may be only my second time, but some of you know I've been circling around it longer than that. If you don't appoint me tonight, I'll be back here trying again in 3 months. You can save yourselves from that fate by voting for me now. Why bother, you might ask? Why bother applying? I've been a resident in Menlo Park for 12 years, of the area for 27 years. During that time, there have been many changes to Menlo Park and the region. We've had economic growth that's the wonder of the world. New industries created, fortunes along with them. Phenomenal growth in reputation and reach of our neighbor to the south, Stanford. Many places in this country are dealing with economic decline and are jealous of us. But I don't need to tell any of you about the costs that have accompanied these successes. Unaffordable housing, crowded schools, congestion, traffic. The role of the Menlo Park Planning Commission in these matters is a limited but very important one. Regional growth and the pressures on Menlo Park that accompany it will continue, regardless of what Menlo Park does or doesn't do. Mountain View and Redwood City, in particular, seem determined to grow as fast as possible. Stanford isn't going anywhere, at least not in this century. We are stuck in the middle, and we have to deal with the consequences. But there's an enormous, unprecedented amount of growth in our town right now, and we have the ability to influence that for better or for worse. I would like to be part of that process. I'm a corporate lawyer by training which I believe will serve me well in the role. I'm not a real estate lawyer. I don't have any real estate investments locally or any interest in the development industry or anything else that would give me conflicts. Mostly, I'm a concerned citizen. I think that more can be done to ensure that developers shoulder more of the costs and the impacts of their projects, and to ensure that when entitlements are granted based on the provision of public benefits, that those benefits are meaningful. Growth is inevitable. Growth is not evil, but it's not an unmitigated benefit either. And I'd like to ensure that the growth we get causes as little harm to our community and our way of life as possible. Don't make me come back in 3 months. Just vote for me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Dorn. Okay, so the first thing, oh, there's one more comment card. Who's that? I'm not seeing it on mine. Evan Golden?
Good evening. Apologies for the late addition. I wanted to express my interest in my application for the Complete Streets Commission. And for those that don't know me, tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm really, really passionate about transportation. I've also been a resident of the peninsula for 30 of my 34 years, so I know the community really, really well. I've spent the better part of the last decade working on changing how people get around. I was on the team that created and launched the Lyft app and spent the last 2 years at Chariot and now working at a parking company. So I'm really passionate about transportation issues, and I think one thing that'll be different about me is I believe that congestion and traffic are solvable problems. And I've spent a lot of the last decade trying to take that idea nationwide, and I really want to try to apply that at home. I really believe that a lot of the issues we face in Menlo Park are really solvable, and we can make a greener, more sustainable, better city. And I'm excited to try to tackle that on the Complete Streets Commission. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so there are no more cards? All right, so the first thing we have to resolve is we have some housekeeping. Councilmember Carlton, I believe you had a request. Are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I received some comments. I understand completely why we're doing the appointments now, because there are empty seats that it makes it difficult to continue when they are empty. But some people are saying that it caught them by surprise because we've made such a big deal that we were only going to do it once a year. And since, in particular, there's one committee where only one person has applied for one empty position, and there's only going to be one meeting between now and when we usually do the vacancy filling. I was going to ask if we postpone that one is the sister city, if we postpone that until the usual time, which would be a couple of months, to fill it at the usual time.
Okay, does anyone, so she's asking, if I heard correctly, to go ahead and delay the sister city committee vote. Is there anyone else in concurrence with that thought?
Mayor Mule, if I may interrupt, this is Judy Heron, City Clerk. As of now, we also have one candidate, one vacancy on the EQC, Environmental Quality Commission as well.
Thank you. All right, I'm not hearing any support to delay that vote tonight, so we can go ahead and proceed with the votes on all four. Go ahead.
I have something to say. I had a question because we're looking to update the policy on the commissions. And so it makes sense to me to update the policy before we bring on new people. And it also would comply with Ms. Carlton wanting to delay the vote on one or all the commissions. I'm not sure if anyone had an opportunity to interview Nancy that applied for the Planning Commission. I did not. I would like more time with the Planning Commission.
Okay. Does anyone else want to delay voting on the Planning Commission this evening?
I'll just chime in and say I would be in favor of delaying the votes on nothing. Residents have applied. These positions were publicly stated as being open. The city has a pretty, I think, robust process of publicizing the availability of these commissions. I think honestly it would be insulting to the residents who applied to at this moment say, oh no, wait, we're going to push this back based on this idea of what we're going to get, what we consider, better applicants. I think the applicant pool here is strong. It's people who have, based on the applications I've read, have demonstrated a commitment to the city and a desire to be involved in the city more. And I just see no like logical or rational reason why we would delay the vote on anything.
Okay. All right, Councilmember.
I also want to throw it out.
Councilmember Carlton, Councilmember Kirk, could you please wait for you to be called on? Councilmember
Sorry.
Nash, do you have any
Sorry,
comments you wanted to
excuse
make? Go ahead.
I actually am interested in discussing the policy more, but I don't have a problem with proceeding with commission appointments at this time.
Okay, Councilmember Carlton?
Thank you. Sorry, it's hard to put a light on from here. I also received a letter that I assume that you all received as well from, I think it was Karen Grove, but suggesting that we have the commissions available to all people, not just voters, which I think is good because we have, I believe it's a third of our city are people from different countries who aren't voters but who are active participants in our community and who have skills and things to contribute that could make our city a better place as well.
Okay, so I'm going to weigh in now too. So actually, we are going to discuss the policy manual after this evening. It's up for discussion, so we can go ahead and do that then. I actually am in concurrence with Councilmember Nash and Councilmember Combs that I'm ready to go ahead and proceed with appointments this evening. So unless there's any other comments, no?
No.
Okay. Then what I'd like to do is go ahead then and take nominations for each. But before we do that, we do have two, let's go ahead and go through Environmental Quality and Sister City Committee actually and see if we can do that by acclamation. So the first item we'll look is the applicant to the Environmental Quality Commission, and I'll hand it over now to Ms. Herron.
So by voice vote, if we can appoint Rebecca Turley to the Environmental Quality Commission.
Okay, council, just by voice, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
As we are moving on to the Sister City Committee, if by voice vote we can appoint Stuart Sofer.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, we're going to go ahead and take nominations for the Complete Streets Commission. Councilmember Nash. Your light's on. Oh, light is off. Does anyone want to make a nomination for the Complete Streets Commission?
I nominate Jackie Sebrian.
I second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Councilmember Combs?
I'll nominate John Cromie. Do we need a second on these nominations, or are people just nominated and then we?
A nomination will suffice.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll nominate Evan Golden.
All right. And then I'll just go ahead and nominate Sylvia Smullen.
All right, so for the voting process, each council member can vote for one candidate. I'll start at the top of the list, and by voice vote, if you can just give me a yay for the name I'm calling out. Jackie Cerebrian?
Yes.
Aye.
John Cromie?
Yay.
Evan Golden?
Aye.
Aye.
And Sylvia Smullen? Okay. We do have a tie between Evan Golden and Jackie Cerebrian. We're going to go to a second vote. Okay. So can I get a vote for Jackie Sebrian?
Aye.
And can I get a vote for Evan Golden?
Aye.
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 Okay. So we have an appointment to the Complete Streets Commission of Evan Golden.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and take nominations for the Planning Commission. Councilmember Nash.
I nominate Mike Doran.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, then I believe by acclamation, well, we should go ahead and vote. So why don't you go ahead and lead us through the vote?
So if I can have a voice vote for Michael Duran?
Aye.
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 Kat, did you want to vote?
I said, I'm sorry, I thought that came through, sorry.
Thank you very much. With that, we have appointed Michael Duran to the Planning Commission.
All right, great. So I want to congratulate those who've been appointed this evening and also say to those who weren't appointed, that's actually not uncommon. The first time that you apply for commissions, you typically have to apply a second time. A number of, actually a few of the commissioners this evening who were appointed have applied in the past unsuccessfully, but were great candidates and continue to engage with the council, and when the opening came up, are now going to be serving us in, I'm sure, splendid capacity. So please stay involved, and you can start working with us before you are a commissioner, and there are many fine examples of that here in the city. So, thank you. Yeah, please, Ms. Nash.
I just want to say that I think on the Complete Streets Commission especially, we had some really fine applicants, and I would strongly recommend that people reapply when we have openings again in April.
Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, I would just add that I was not appointed the first time I applied to a city commission, and so I think things ultimately turned out okay. So if you weren't appointed, then certainly try again. And I'd also like to point out, I think that 4 of the 5 city council members are alumni of the city commission system. So it is an important role in our city government, and also a bit of a sounding sort of system, a farm team for the council. So definitely stay involved.
And I just want to say thank you for applying for the commissions, and I appreciate your service to Menlo Park.
Councilmember Carlton, did you want to add anything?
No, just thank you, everyone, for your interest in being involved in the city. We sincerely appreciate it.
Great. Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull from the consent calendar? I would like to pull item, I'd like to pull item H2 pertaining to the City Council Policy Committee's policies and procedure roles. Are there any, Councilmember Carlton, do you have any items you'd like to pull?
I wanted to pull H2 as well.
Okay, so we're going to pull H2. I do have one correction to note in item H1 that has already been made. The last name has been added to in the minutes of one of the speakers. Lynn, it's on the second page of the January 15th, 2019 minutes. Lynn, the last name Fovinci has been added after her name. So I just note that for the record. Can I have a motion to approve items H1, H3, and H4?
I move that we approve those items from the consent calendar.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor, please go ahead and let's go ahead and vote.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Great. We can go ahead and pull item H2. Is there a staff report on item H2, or should we just go right to it, or is there a person specifically going to be speaking on that topic?
I think Nick was very involved, so I don't think he has a prepared staff report. If you had questions, then...
Great. I will, I'll go last, that's fine. I'm going to start. Vice Mayor Taylor, did you have comments? Because you had raised it in the... Okay.
With the policy, one of my concerns is that the staff liaison's responsibilities needed to be added to the policy because there have been some complaints from commissioners and concerns from residents that the information that they're sharing at meetings is not being conveyed. And so I wanted to make sure that the staff is held accountable too.
Okay. Councilmember Nash?
Cecilia, were you talking about staff or? Okay. I would also like to, I don't know that now's the time, spell out the council liaison role.
Okay.
And then I would also like to, on page 9, under the procedural recommendations, have the reporting rather than, have it twice a year rather than annually. It's being reduced from 3 times a year to annually, and I'd actually like to recommend that it's twice a year. And I'd also like to see, actually it's also on page 10 at the bottom, on number 4. So it's in 2 places.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry. So there's at least 2 places where there's a minimum reporting to the council from commissions and committees, which was being reduced from 3 times per year to annually, and I'd actually like to see that twice a year rather than once a year.
All right. Any other issues? We'll come back to you in a moment. Councilmember Combs. Councilmember Carlton, did you have any items that you want to discuss regarding the policy manual? Commission, committees, and policies?
Yes. One is on the page 8 when it talks about the Complete Streets Commission. It just reads funny, the point that says advising City Council on ways to encourage pedestrian and bicycle safety and accessibility. If it's a complete street, it should be safety for all, not just one area called out. It makes it sound like we don't care about car safety, and we do. We've done various policies to increase safety of people driving cars as well. So I was going to suggest that be edited to advising City Council on ways to encourage all vehicle safety and bicycle and pedestrian accessibility for the city.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember. All right, so I'm going to go ahead then, and I'm going to make my comments. I have questions, actually. Then I'm going to go ahead. I think Councilmember Carlton, do you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I apologize. I just wanted to also remind you that I had mentioned before about the policy on all members of all residents being able to serve on committees and commissions.
Okay, so thank you. So what I'm doing it right now is I'm taking a list of all the issues, and then we'll go ahead and go through them and talk about them individually. So the item that I wanted to go ahead and put on the list has to do with the Complete Streets Commission. It appears that they voted in December to go ahead and to permanently remain that, but it didn't come back to us for a policy commission, for a policy decision. It's just being memorialized as having been done so in the manual. This council's never weighed in on that, and if the council wants to support that, that's fine. However, if we're going to reduce, if we are now going to make that change permanent, I do have concerns about the size of that commission being 9 as being unwieldy, having that go into the evening. So we can go ahead and talk about that. But I have taken comment before from commissioners that can make it where everyone gives a comment, but it can be very difficult to actually get to a reportable conclusion, and it's made it difficult on staff to actually identify what the conclusion was amongst all the commissioners. Not saying that we shouldn't leave it at 9, but I do want to have a discussion about that evening. So I'm not advocating either way yet, but I just be the only commission we have in the city with 9 members. So that's one item I'd like to put on there. Let's go ahead and take public comment cards now. Actually, sorry, I said I'd ask a question. I should ask a question. Nick, can you tell me why do you know why it was set at 9?
I do not know. However, Public Works Director Justin Murphy may be able to help us with the history there.
I'll go ahead and ask. I'll ask Councilmember Nash, who served on it, but the vote was taken in December.
Yeah, so I actually was not at that meeting when they took the vote, but the commission had been running at 11 people, and the thought was to go down to 7 at the vote. In December, I understand that it actually failed when combining the 2 commissions with 7 members and passed combining the commission with 9 members, that there was a strong feeling that they needed 9 members on the commission.
Okay. We'll come back and talk about it because I personally don't just want to leave it at 9. I want to have a evaluation of whether or not it's functional at 9 over time and come back to that issue on the number. Because it sounds to me like they realized 11 was unwieldy, and it was like, okay, we'll go down to 9 and see what happens. And so I think we should probably revisit that at some point in the year. So let's go ahead, but we can talk about that. So let's go ahead now and take our public comment cards. So our first speaker on this issue is Ms. Bramlett.
So I was at the the Library Commission meeting last night, and the topic came up about this report and the disbanding of the Bellhaven Library Advisory Committee. And it was news to the commission, and more troubling, it was news to some members of that committee. And so at that meeting, the commission voted to recommend that this policy be tabled. So this highlights a few interesting things that I think need attention. One is, I think it would be a good idea to follow Atherton's example and have, at minimum, a checkoff box on all the staff reports to indicate if they went through a commission or not. Some of theirs do not, but some have multiple reviews, but at least council is aware of that. And I have an example with me if you'd like to see it. I don't know if the camera's watching here, but like in this example here, okay? The other thing I want to suggest, I think the time is right to get some feedback into these roles. I mean, I have my own perspective serving as a library commissioner and what I heard from others, and then the commissioners that I run into. And I think a number of us, we enter it with a certain idea, and then the reality might not be the same. And clearly we're all in it together in a town, but I think it's the time is right to perhaps hold a study session to get broader input into the roles, especially how they could better serve the goal of public engagement. And I happened to notice that Atherton recently had a study session just on that topic. And so, we have a practice nearby that, certainly could be learned from and maybe replicated here. So I think it would be very good to do that. So that's my main comment here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bramlett. Our next speaker this evening is Ms. Jones.
Good evening, council members and staff. Pamela Jones, resident of Menlo Park. And I'm responding to the entire document, disbanding, morphing into the Library Commission, the BNLAC Committee, the Bellhaven Neighborhood Library Advisory Committee, I think would be a real disservice to the community as well as to that group. They should have their mission should now be updated according to what's going on and moving forward with the library. But to get rid of this will show, once again, that here's a neighborhood that had a process that was moving forward, and now staff has recommended that it be disbanded. In regards to specific policies, I'd like to see the meeting location, all of the commission meetings be held here in the council chambers so that they can be recorded and it can be live. Not everybody can make it to the meetings and they're interested in what's going on, and this would also help to improve civic engagement. And we would know firsthand exactly what the commissioners are saying. We'd understand the emotion behind it, the tenor of the conversation, so there wouldn't be any misunderstanding. And everybody would then remember what they said, because sometimes people forget what they say because the meetings are so long. As far as under the membership section, under attendance, I'd like to see the attendance policy in writing, and it should be exactly the same thing for the commissioners and the committee members as it is for the council members. So, for example, if a commissioner or committee member needs to phone in, they should be able to phone in to a meeting, which again would make sense to have it here in this location. By being able to phone in, we would probably see less absences. People on commissions volunteer, and they do a lot of deep dive work in preparing for these meetings, so I think it may help them out. The Housing Commission must remain at 7 members. We worked very hard to get it to 7 members. It was only a year and a half ago that it increased, but according to this document, it was listed at 5. That again is a disservice to probably one of our most important commissions. Not that they all aren't important. And the last thing is eligibility. All residents should be eligible regardless of voting status. Voting status has nothing to do with civic engagement, so that should be separated. And we also need to understand that becoming a citizen may take 10 years or more, even when you go through the proper legal process. So those are the items that I wish you would consider. Thank you.
Are there any more comment cards? Vice Mayor Taylor, I believe you had another issue that you wanted to add.
Actually, the issue was just brought up, and that was about maintaining the Bellhaven Neighborhood Library Advisory Committee, and with the charge of being in existence until the new library is actually built.
Okay, so what I want to do now then is I want to go ahead and go through these items one by one, have a discussion about them, and then a decision, and then we'll go ahead and we'll have a discussion about them and then a motion so that it's all cleaned up as we go. So the first item that I have is there was a comment regarding, so let's go ahead and talk about all residents serve on a commission. Does anyone want to go ahead and share thoughts? Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, well, I actually had a question for staff. Is it not the case now that you only need to be a resident, but you don't actually have to be a citizen? Because it was my understanding, I have no desire to talk about someone's citizenship status from the dais, but that we currently had at least one current commissioner who is a resident but not a citizen. So if there is this case that you have to be a sort of citizen, then this is news to me.
So the policy right now says on page 6, and this is not a change, in most cases, members shall be residents of the city of Menlo Park, at least 18 years of age, and a registered voter. So it's not all cases, but in most cases. And I think there may be some specific exceptions for certain commissions or committees. So where it doesn't require residency for the downtown specific plan. I mean, committee, when we did that, general plan committee, because we wanted to include some others. But I think the policy does say, in most cases, registered voter. So if you wanted to open it up to residents and not require someone to be a registered voter, it would be appropriate to make that change.
And just so I'm understanding, so does the current policy allow for one of the normal commissions for a resident who is not registered to serve on a commission? Like if there is a person on the commission who is currently serving now who is not a registered voter, then is that an aberration of that policy, or does that scenario fit within that policy as you understand it?
So, Judy, do you check registered voters when people apply to be on commissions?
Typically, it's checked after the appointments, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I don't remember us ever, as a council member, discussing whether or not someone was a registered voter or precluding someone. I think that the policy as written is highlights that it might be something for consideration, which frankly I don't mind, because it's something that I would want to think about in terms of, it might be something you might want to ask a person, like how long are they going to be in the city? Do they understand it's a 4-year commitment? But it's never, and to my knowledge, it's never precluded anyone in deliberation from applying, nor has it been in any material that we put out to say that you have to be.
This is Councilmember Carlson.
Councilmember Carlton?
Thank you. I think to Mr. McClure's point, this is kind of a cleanup suggestion. If we don't mind that all residents are able to serve on any commission, I'm just suggesting that be edited so that it makes it clean and clear.
Okay, any other comments on the issue? Is there a motion on the issue? Councilmember Carlton, did you want to make a motion on the issue?
Can I just...
I move that we...
Sorry,
I move that we edit the document to remove that comment that in most cases that all residents are able to serve on committees and commissions.
A second. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on then.
So I was just going to say, what you might do is go through a discussion, and if there's a consensus to make a change, then you can just make the change without a formal motion, and then vote on it at the end.
When I think we'll have a consensus, then yeah. But with this, it's difficult with Councilmember Carlton on the phone to know. With staff liaison issue, yeah.
I actually would second.
All right, so we have a second on the motions, then we can go ahead and vote on it. So the vote will be whether or not to change the language to delete it entirely. Is that correct, Ms. Carlton?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So go ahead and vote. Well, actually, ask you this: is there a third person who supports that? That's fine. Is there a third person who supports that change? All right, so then that change is going to go ahead and be incorporated into the final motion. It's the staff liaison issue. Councilmember Taylor, you raised the issue of whether or not is there some amendment, something you want to put into the language? And to be clear, the report that comes back sometimes from staff, from commissioners, maybe their perception. My perception of staff is they work really hard, but it can be very frustrating. Like I said earlier, at times, especially if there is a very large commission, to try to go ahead and take all that information down and make it understandable when it hasn't been cleaned up real well into terms of what is the decision of the commission can make it difficult. So I don't want to, as we talk about this, I think it's unfair for us to, in a vacuum, talk about staff does this or staff does that. But to talk about ways that we can constructively try to make it clearer, I think is probably appropriate. So did you want to go ahead?
That's exactly what I would like to see. And that way it would prevent situations like last night at the Library Commission where the commissioners weren't aware of the staff recommendation until it was brought to them, as opposed to, and it made it seem like the decision had already been made without the two parties involved. So that's, and so as far as having a policy, if everyone else has a policy, why not have a policy for the staff? So that way it remains, we maintain our integrity and our transparency. And I'm not sure how to craft that language. I'm not sure if Nick can help with that.
Yeah, through the chair, Mr. Mayor, the item for BINLAC is really following up on what staff understood to be the City Council's direction and charter for BINLAC, which it was initially anticipated to last 6 to 12 months and focused on the needs assessment. And so I think that there may have been a misunderstanding there relative to what the council had, the purpose of BINLAC. And the policy does explicitly say that when a commission or committee fulfills its purpose, that it is disbanded, which is the recommendation in the report. Should the council desire for us to return with a charter for BINLAC, we can definitely look at that at your direction. So that is really, hopefully, that clarifies the recommendation or the confusion related to BINLAC. Relative to the staff liaison role, it would be helpful if we look at a specific paragraph in the policy where we could perhaps insert some language, because I'm not entirely certain I know where that would be.
Well, using the BINLAC as an example, even prior to it being created, there was a lot of information brought from the community about what they wanted, and that wasn't necessarily the direction that they went in. And so the idea was to do a space needs study. Well, we know that we didn't need a space needs study, we needed a site needs study. And so now we had to go through the process that was recommended, even though that's not what the community wanted. And so I'm just trying to make sure that we do things for the betterment of the community that they're asking for and have been asking for, and figuring out ways to cut down consulting time, figuring out ways to cut down time from taking away from actually getting what they've asked for.
Okay,
so that's why.
So I'm going to go ahead and interject. So what I see happening here is, I think that historically, every once in a while, you have something like flare up where there's a misunderstanding, and I think that, and I don't think in this circumstance, I think what might make sense. I'm looking at this, and the only thing that I see in the Commission's Committee Policy, Procedure, Role, and Responsibility document that pertains to the staff liaison talks about them being the lead representative to the media. But I don't think it actually reflects practice. Practice right now, I think, is actually that the staff liaison meets with the commission chair and talks about that, talks about what's upcoming, what issues are there. And it may be that we can go ahead and memorialize that to take away any ambiguity such that you could fall out of practice. Not that staff's doing anything wrong or the commissioners are doing anything wrong, but sometimes adding a little bit of process cuts away from the possibility that you can have this occur, because people can just point to it and say, hey, oh yeah, that's right, we were supposed to meet and talk about this within 48 hours before the meeting and go over it. And that might take away this issue, or 72 hours or some point. And then if people don't, it's also something that you can point to and say, well, why didn't we? Why didn't we talk about it then? So is that something that you think would be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys want to go ahead and take that and talk about it at a staff level and propose some language around that to us?
We'll be glad to do that.
Okay, that's great. And I want to make clear to city management staff, there's no judgment here. We're actually, I think by doing this, we can go ahead and figure out a way that we can just take care of this issue and not have it flare up. So, is there other support from council to do that? Is that something we all can agree on? Yeah, consensus. Councilmember Carlton, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So the next item that we had to talk about is the council liaison role. Councilmember Nash.
So I'm interested in having more definition around the council liaison role and the relationship with the commissions so that there's a better coordination of effort and we can really better utilize the commissions as an extension of the council. And also, as part of that, having defining better what is the expectation for attending meetings and the like.
Yeah, so can I speak to that? So in my history on council, it's always different. And so when I first got elected to council, John Boyle I was on actually not elected to council. I was a transportation commissioner, and John Boyle was our liaison. And sometimes he'd show up, and sometimes he didn't. But I learned when I was a transportation commissioner, the real key to the liaison relationship was the ability to reach out to him and talk to him about topics and whether or not he would accurately relay that back to the council. I think you guys have started to learn pretty quickly just how much the time demand is on council. It's significant. And so I really wouldn't, I would recommend against trying to make attendance at those meetings mandatory because trust me, you're going to find, like this week just on city council subcommittee meetings, I have a meeting every night of the week except Friday. So I would go, but I would say I do think that it is possible that you might want it, that we could add language about good faith or a recurring communication with the chair of those commissions, such that there's language in there suggesting what the conduct or the code of conduct would be of the council member. Does that sound good, or?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, the City Council's policy or procedures manual does actually speak to the expectations the council has of liaisons and their relationship with the committee. So as the council reviews that policy, you may want to use that opportunity to more clearly define the role.
Did you want? Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Nash.
Very honestly, I can't recall it. I know I've read it recently. I'm wondering if that might be worthwhile bringing that into this policy document at some point.
The liaison description? Yeah,
Okay. That works for me. We can move it into the document as well. So is there consensus around that? Okay, there's consensus there. Councilmember Carlton, does that sound okay to you? Any objection?
Yeah, that's fine. Nope, no objection.
Okay, the next document that we have, the next issue we have is the twice a year report out. Again, Councilmember Nash.
So currently the document lists that there's a report out at 3 times a year. The suggestion is go down to 1 time a year. I would recommend twice a year, just again to keep the commissions in sync with the council and to better utilize commissions. I think that basically based on the folks on the commissions are incredibly dedicated, put a tremendous amount of time into the commissions, as everyone knows. And I think that the more we can keep the commissions in sync and be using, to have the commissions be an extension of the council, the better, in whatever we can do to encourage that communication is helpful.
Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to that. I would though ask staff if you could provide some of the thinking or rationale behind going from 3 to 1.
Definitely. So the policy is currently worded, the advisory body at a regular scheduled meeting shall provide a report at least 3 times per year. And at least in our review, that is not the current practice. So it was our desire to bring the policy closer to current practice. The revision says at least annually. So there's nothing precluding additional annual reports. Some commissions or committees only meet quarterly, so if they're providing 2 reports to council, if the council desires that, of course, that's something that can be accommodated. But it is a recognition that there are peaks and valleys perhaps in commissions and their workload, and at least once annually would be appropriate.
Yeah, Councilmember Nash.
So one of the things which perhaps is with goal setting is to actually have a review of commissions and exactly what commissions we have, and perhaps have some sort of maybe twice a year, all the commissions get together, report out, and actually get more collaboration also with council, but that's a longer discussion.
Councilmember Carlton, did you want to add to this discussion?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, I'm fine with going to twice a year as well. So, Councilmember Combs?
But with the language is sort of recommended twice a year, right? So we're not actually creating some obligation in situations where we're twice a year, because I do accept sort of staff's rationale for commissions or committees that meet quarterly, and so I'm totally fine with going with the 2 as long as it is sort of the language is recommended.
Okay, I'm seeing consensus around that issue. Let's go ahead and move on to adding vehicle safety to the Complete Streets Commission. That's Councilmember Carlton. I agree with you, Councilmember Carlton. Is there any? It's self-explanatory. Is there agreement on that to add vehicle? There's agreement on that issue and consensus. Councilmember Nash.
I'm actually wondering if we want to put something about multimodal or something because anything that might not be covered by vehicle, bicycle, pedestrian, or is that getting too detailed?
That's fine. Just so it can be vehicle and vehicle, comma, multimodal. That works. Is there consensus on that?
I'm fine with that. Thank you.
All right, great. Next item is 9 members. Was my issue of whether or not we'd consider talk about the issue around 9 members on the Complete Street Commission. I'm fine with leaving it for 9 members now. I just, and I guess you wouldn't put it into the policy manual, but because we skipped the step of actually having a discussion about this as a policy item, I would like to see this issue come back to us on whether it be 9 or 7, but we can go ahead and do that at the year end next year when we review this again. But I don't want to lose this issue. So if we could go ahead and send this item back to the Complete Streets Commission, that it'll be a topic for discussion at a later date, I'd appreciate it. Is there consensus around that?
Yeah, and I would just add, as a member of the Bike Commission, I think sort of leading up to this combination, I thought that part of the thinking was that if it was to, this Complete Streets did seem like it was going to become permanent, that the goal would be to sort of pare down through natural attrition to 7. And if it seems like, based on the kind of fact pattern that Councilmember Nash provided, it was like in the moment those the commissioners decided not to eliminate it because they felt that they were productive at 9. I don't know that that's enough of a rationale for me to understand why a commission would be 9 instead of 7.
So I think we can go ahead and I have the same concerns, but I think we can go ahead and revisit it at the time it comes, because the commission may well know that they can function at 9. I just remember I remember when I was on the commission and there were 7 of us, and there were some long nights. But hey, if they can pull it off, we'll find out. So, yeah, Councilmember Nash.
Oh, it was a specific request from the Complete Streets Commission to go to 9 and not to 7.
No, I understand. We're not going to change it tonight, but I think it's something to revisit with them in the future. So we can go ahead now and the issue of the Bellahaven Library Committee, and that was, I'll go ahead and turn that over to Vice Mayor Taylor.
Well, what I would like to see, I stated earlier with the committee, is to make sure that we can change the charter and make sure that it exists until the new library is built. I didn't hear from any of the two, I believe, committee members that were present last night at the Library Commission meeting stating that they didn't want to be on the committee. But I did hear some concerns about them folding into the Library Commission, because that's not the Library Commission's charge, per se.
Mr. Figueros, you want to give us some background?
So again, the initial adoption of the BINLAC Charter was anticipated to be a limited focus, and we reached that milestone, which is why the recommendations in the report this evening. Should the council desire, staff could prepare a charter and return for the council to make that consideration. I do believe, and I think that the interim library director is here. I think that there may have been some folks who who either have left BINLAC. There are some vacancies, so we would need to appoint the vacancies at that time once we have the charter.
Yeah.
We have vacancies, yeah.
My understanding on this issue was that based on the council policy that BINLAC was going to be, that the Belhaven Library would be going forward at the same time as the main city library, that they would be happening in concert, that this was also one of the reasons for this happening. If they somehow split again, then you would go ahead and form two commissions to help with that. But because the two had been combined and attached to each other as non-separate, it was almost it would almost cause some redundancy in planning. I don't know if, I mean, that's a policy discussion for us to have about whether or not we agree that would be the case, but I don't think it was. I think there was actually trying to streamline efficiency to get things to happen faster. So
I think that this should wait till
Councilmember.
goal setting on Saturday, where we decide what we're doing with the libraries.
Okay, is that fair?
Okay, that's fair.
Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, I was at the Library Commission meeting last night, and I'll just sort of add my general thoughts is that in theory, like going for the main sort of charge for the Library Commission, I think will be the Belhaven Library. And so in that way, I think I can see how from maybe staff's perspectives or just a general sort of organization and efficiency perspective, it seems as though like if the main charge of the Library Commission now will be focused on everything having to do with a new Belhaven Library, that this additional committee or commission, again, would seem redundant, and that if there are residents on there that have an interest, then that can be, that interest can be transferred to the Library Commission. So I am not saying that I'm in favor necessarily of the BINLAC Commission being disbanded or not existing, but I do see a clear sort of rationale behind this recommendation from the staff. I think, sometimes creating committees or commissions make us feel good, but they don't actually accomplish much. And so I think the issue is what's being accomplished, and can it be accomplished with one commission, with a Library Commission being focused, again, mostly over the next few years on the Belhaven project.
Councilmember Carlton, did you have a comment? And there might be follow-up comments after Councilmember Carlton, but I really want to put a pin in it and have a discussion about it at goal setting. But I don't want to preclude you. Councilmember Carlton?
I can see arguments both ways. And I do worry about redundancy in work. And I see that the work of that commission is going to be focused a lot on the Belhaven branch. But I think there's specific understanding of that area where having people focusing on the issue might keep it moving forward. So I can go either way. But I do appreciate that having a group of people focusing on that library might help keep momentum going.
Okay, thank
because
you.
That's not the only thing the Library Commission does.
Thank you. All right, so with that, guys, we could have this discussion for a while, I think, but let's go ahead and table that for goal setting. The next item that was raised was having all meetings in council chambers. I'm going to speak on this first because actually I remember this discussion when I first got on council, and it's no surprise to all of you. Sometimes I can be a bit of a hard charger. When I first got on the council, I wanted this myself, and I thought it was really important. And I will never forget, as I was advocating for this, I had two very wise EQC members come to me, Mitch Slomiak and Chris DeCarty, and they said, Ray, we don't want to be on the dais, because what we realized is that when we're on the dais, we treat each other differently than when we do in the fishbowl, and we're more collaborative in the fishbowl. And we had that for their commission. It worked that way. And so since then, the way I've always looked on this at council is that if a commission wants to be on the dais, they bring that forward and say, hey, we think that's going to work for us, we're going to be more productive that way, great, we figure out a way to accommodate that. If they want to be in the fishbowl, and some of them want to be in the fishbowl, then they're in the fishbowl. And then the question of whether or not to record those meetings really comes down to sort of whether or not there's something, it's that relationship that you form with your staff member. It's like, is there something that's worthy of spending city resources to have it be recorded, and you give people the opportunity to try to work that out. I personally think that can work. I think that works pretty well. I'd like to give the commissions the opportunity to have that sort of discretion amongst them. Is that something that works for you all, or do you think we really should try to move to a more formal meeting schedule here in the council chambers? Councilmember Combs.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think the idea is interesting, but the devil is in the details. I think the logistics, the cost, and just the sort of tenor and tone of some of the commissions are different, right? I mean, again, I started on the Bike Commission, RIP, right? And obviously also served on the Planning Commission, and so I get the delta, the difference between those experiences. But yeah, I think that I would be hesitant towards any rule that sort of tried to push all the commissions to the dais and council chambers. And also to sort of the recording. I mean, I do question, even although the Planning Commission meetings are recorded, I do question like what is the actual viewership? I'm pretty sure it's pretty small, and so is that worth the additional costs and logistics that go into that? So like I said, I think I would be hesitant towards any policy that would try to mandate or set as some sort of benchmark or default that meetings happen in council chambers.
Right. Mr. Figueros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that when the council speaks to the policy on this particular issue, it's particularly important to pay attention or to consider consistency across committees. There is if it is more of an ad hoc situation where committees are making decisions, perhaps certain meetings are videoed, others aren't, some are meeting in the council chambers, that does create a certain challenge for staff to manage, to make sure that all of the pieces, the logistics are in place to make sure that it happens, but it also it sets the expectation on the public and question, well, why wasn't X meeting or why aren't certain meetings? And so I think that if the council would like for us to explore what we think it would take to make it happen, then we could definitely do some research and come back to you with that. There are scheduling issues for this room, may not be always available, et cetera. So.
Thank you. Or any other comments?
I think that's fair as far as exploring the issue, especially the cost.
All right, so let's go ahead. Councilmember Nash.
I wonder if, basically, I would not want to see all commissions in this room. I think that it really, having been on the Bike Commission and then which went into the Complete Streets, it is much more formal here, and it really does, to some extent, stifle conversation. But I do think that it is worthwhile to perhaps have an audio recording, which shouldn't be overwhelmingly hard in the fishbowl, so that there is some record and way for the public to hear what was discussed, and perhaps have presentations available as well.
Mr. Figueros?
So we'll work on a proposal and bring it back to council for consideration.
Does that sound great to everyone? Yes? Councilmember Carlton, does that work for you? Did you have any comment on the issue?
Yeah, that's fine. I actually agree with Mayor Mueller that it takes the pressure off and often provides better communication, not necessarily being on the dais, being in a one of the other rooms. But I'm happy to have it brought back to us.
Great.
And can I just chime in? With that proposal, it'd be really great if there's an analysis of what other cities in the area do.
Okay. Item issue 9 is attendance, whether or not commissioners can phone into their meetings. Does anyone have any thoughts on this issue? Councilmember Combs.
I think it goes back to the issues of logistics, right? And then this is an additional burden on the staff. I've been in 1 or 2 city council meetings where just the process of dialing someone in is not as easy as it seems, and so it can delay a meeting, and then it can throw off the meeting's agenda and discussion. I think, look, there is a sort of leniency for absences when you can't be here. I think we understand that these are volunteer positions. But if you can't commit a minimum of what is required, then I think you should make some discernment or decision about whether this is something that fits in your life at that moment. But I don't think we should be creating extra burdens for staff and trying to dial people in. You can either be here or you can't. And this either fits into your life at that moment or it doesn't.
I'm going to just, so actually what I think that would be helpful is a little bit more lenient. So I understand the concern there, and I think that the default would be that you probably wouldn't want people dialing in, but for a commission meeting. But the flip side of that is there are issues that come up when a commission may say, when a committee member may know that they're going to be out of town, and so like there's a big item for the planning commission, and or there's a big item for one of the commissions, and they really realize that, hey, we know this in advance, and we want to have as much of us here as possible to discuss this issue. As a commission in this circumstance, with the prior notice, a commissioner could turn to their other commissioners and say, for this meeting under these special circumstances, does it make sense that we allow me to dial in? In those circumstances, I think that I think commissions can get along and decide that together. I think commissioners typically will know their work schedules. They can also try to run that through the commissioner chair and the staff liaison to see if it's logistically possible. So if there's a way that we could, I think it's fair to say that there are circumstances that we might want to create some leniency for that would benefit the city. But with the default being that wasn't always the case, that people don't fall into that pattern on the commissions. But I certainly think that sometimes it bears the weight. Is that, anyone else want to add to that?
I have a question.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Thank you. My question is, what is the attendance rate? Do we have a good attendance rate with our commissions? Is it an issue?
I don't know from I know from only personal experience with one of the commissions. However, the council will receive a report on March 12th that will document all of the attendance records for all of the attendance records for all commissions.
Thank you.
Councilmember Carlton, did you want to weigh in?
I tend to agree with Mayor Mueller that we have commissions because we want to have the opinions and participation of people in our city. And we, obviously, I'm calling in. We allow calling in with the city council. I don't, especially when you're meeting in the fishbowl, one of these rooms, calling in is not a grievously difficult thing to do. We've had call-in meetings with someone's mobile phone before. So I think on balance, the hassle worth balanced against having a contribution of someone who's volunteered and being appointed onto a commission. I'd rather see them call in and be able to participate. I don't think it would be that often to really be an issue, but that's where I'm leaning.
Okay. That probably is something you're going to have to put some language around. So, Mr. McClure, you're smiling.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Nick writes.
Yeah. So I think it's it's at the discretion of the committee with prior notice, I think, is what we're looking at. Number 10, Housing Commission, 7 members. I'm going to go first. I think it's probably an oversight that it was reduced to 5. That was a commission. That was a council direction. I don't think staff did that. I think that's just a remnant. I think everyone's probably going to be in support. Anyone want 5? No. So we'll just fix that. Number 11 is a new one because I thought of it while we were sitting here. So I'm going to add, and I'll give you guys all the opportunity to add. I actually want within the Planning Commission description roles that they take up-down votes, that there are as much as possible. So one of the things that has been very difficult for me in my tenure on council is when items that are not, that do not require a vote in front of the Planning Commission but goes to them for direction, is they take a consensus discussion and then we get a very long discussion without a vote. And I really, as much as possible, want to encourage the commissions to vote up, down on issues, to isolate issues, vote up, down on them, so that when we can look at what actually was the decision of that commission, what consensus was reached, and then we can go back and look at what they talked about. But I think it'd be very helpful from my personal experience on council to know if they had to vote that night, what was the vote? So if you guys can go ahead and put that. I think I put them on the spot. Did you want to add something, Councilman?
Yeah, as it was being sort of a few months removed from the Planning Commission, I have no objection to that. I mean, if like for those kind of more discussion things that are going to the council for like where we're sort of more an advisory body and it's something that's going to be decided for council, if there's like some request of like a straw poll, I think that's fine.
That would be very helpful. Councilmember Carlton, did you want to weigh in on that?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Just for clarification, if I may, just checking with Deanna Chow, Assistant Community Development Director, on this particular question, and she shared with me that the Planning Commission will typically consider matters through like a study session, and I don't know. I would defer to the city attorney here. Can a vote be taken during, or an up-down consensus vote be taken on a study session?
Not unless it specifically indicates that action will be taken.
No, but so this leads to a discussion then, because I'll be very frank, I'll be candid. The study session, when the Planning Commission does a study session and we get a very long document, its utility at the City Council is difficult to unwind. And so if there is a way in those study sessions that they could say, okay, on this issue, do we have consensus around how I'm thinking of this item, or something to that? Is there any way that we can go ahead and try to make the usefulness of those study sessions, the utility of those study sessions, more useful to council? Because, I mean, frankly, and I'll be candid with you, like I feel for the planning commissioners too. Those are long meetings. I mean, there are a lot of comments in that discussion.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, thank you. So yes, during study sessions, there is definitely a lot of conversation and many questions that we do ask of the commission. Generally, we say that there is no action being taken that evening. So if this is something that we do want to take action, then I think we would need to phrase it differently in how we present it to the Planning Commission. Generally, there's guidance, and I think through the guidance, we can have a general sense of, are we supportive of that, or let's take another look at it. But there's not voting per se.
Yeah, so that's interesting because now I think I'm drilling down on what the issue is. So action is a determinative action of the Planning Commission. Yes, no. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for a consensus of what the input is. It's not going to have any, and the council can do what it's want. It's not an action of the commission up down on an issue, but it's the recording of the consensus of the Planning Commission of what they thought that night. That's all I'm asking for. And it wouldn't be an action per se because it wouldn't have any obligatory effect on the project or what the council does that evening. It would just tell us, as the commission, this is what consensus was that evening on this issue.
So I think that we understand what you're looking for, and if the council supports that, why don't we take it offline and try and come up with some proposed language, and we'll bring that back to you.
Is there consensus around that? Yeah. Councilmember Carlton, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Okay, I think we've gone through. Are there any other issues that anyone wants to discuss with respect to this document?
I have a question regarding the Finance and Audit Committee. And just looking over the email on the CCIN from, not sure if it's from Sudi or from Ron Shepard, our commissioners, I wanted to find out if any of their input in this document was considered in the language for their charter.
As outlined in the staff report, the Finance and Audit Committee has struggled to reach quorum for the last several months to take official action on recommendations to the council. The good news is that we have a quorum for February 6th at 6 p.m. I do believe that the recommendation here, as the mayor had suggested in December, to move the meeting to the evening will help quite a bit to achieve quorum, but I think that the composition of the committee, specifically for the benefit of the council members and the public who are curious, particularly on the point of one of the recommendations. One of the recommendations was to remove the council members as voting members and make them simply liaisons, and then appoint 5 members of the public. That item has been discussed by the Finance and Audit Committee, and it did not go anywhere the first time. Now, that doesn't mean that that can't happen again, but I would imagine it would be on their agenda for the 6th to have that discussion.
Yeah, I would agree. There need to be similar to what we did with the Complete Streets Commission. It would, for something like that where you're changing the body, it would need to come up as a motion that passed through the body. So, thank you. Councilmember Carlton, do you have any other issues with respect to the document?
Nope, thank you.
Great. Mr. McClure, how do I wrap this up?
I think we have direction, and I think the easiest thing to do would be to bring it back, and we'll put it on a future agenda after we've made the suggested or requested changes. We'll bring it back in a red line form so you can see what the new changes are. We'll leave everything that you didn't comment on, we'll show as kind of the final form and just show a red line of what you've requested tonight.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead then and do we need a motion on that, or we can just go ahead and move on?
We don't need a motion on that.
Thank you. All right, so now we can go ahead and move on to regular business. The first item this evening on regular business is item I-1, to receive and file the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018. There is no the only action required this season is to go ahead and file the report and receive it. So we can go ahead and ask questions about the report, but we're not directing anything as a result of the report. So I just want to make that clear tonight as we go through the discussion. So at this time, we can go ahead and, well, we don't take the speaker till after the report. So we can go ahead and our Finance and Budget Manager, Dan Jacobson, will make the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I have with me Ahmed Badawi. He is our auditor. So he's going to present the CAFR report, and then I will be available for any questions that you have at that point.
All right, well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Ahmed Badawi, and I am the audit partner on the City of Menlo Park's audit, and I will present to you today the results of the 2018 audit. So the agenda today, I will let you know who the engagement team was, what were our deliverables and the scope of our audit, areas we emphasized on during our audit process, the type of audit opinion we issued, and summarize for you some of the numbers in your financial statements, provide you some of the required communication as the independent auditor, very brief summary of the new accounting standards coming your way, and then see if you have any questions for me. Of course, feel free to interrupt me anytime you have a question. So in terms of the engagement team, this was the composition of our engagement team. I was the engagement partner. The engagement partner is the person ultimately responsible for the whole audit. So my responsibility is to oversee the team, ensure that the audit plan is being carried accordingly, and address any issues or matters that come through the process. We always have a quality control reviewer. This individual is in the background. Their role is to review my work. It's a second set of eyes to ensure that I adhere to professional standards. We had a senior manager, Monica. We had 2 professional staff, and we also had an IT specialist as part of our audit team. In terms of our deliverables, we were mainly engaged to provide an opinion on the city's basic financial statements. That's a very large document that you probably have seen that include all city funds, all city assets and liabilities. We use many different terms to refer to that document. The CAFR is one of the common names we refer to it, the basic financial statements. So that's really our main task or responsibility, is to report on that document. Part of doing that, we are also required to report on the city's internal control over financial reporting. We also perform a few compliance audits. Any time you expend Transportation Development Act funds, we have to do a compliance audit to ensure those funds were expended in the right place or for the right purpose. We do a compliance audit of the Measure A funds to ensure that they were also spent for the right purpose. We perform an audit of the Child Care Development Program. Again, that's a compliance audit, making sure that you adhered with the California Department of Education rules and regulations. And finally, we are responsible for communicating with the governing body. So those were our deliverables. In terms of areas of primary audit emphasis, of course, we audited all the account balances, and we made sure that all the numbers in your financial statements are properly supported. But there were 3 main areas that we gave some special attention to. And those are very common, that in any audit we would probably give attention to those areas. The first area is the management override of control. Management are the ones that design those controls. They are the ones that put them in place. They monitor them, and they can choose to override them at any time. Of course, that is not necessarily what we expect to happen, but there is really nothing that can prevent this from happening. So we have to design an audit procedure to try to mitigate that risk. So we try to incorporate an element of unpredictability in our audit procedures. We test journal entries prepared by management. We review the estimates made by management and make sure that they are free of bias. We ensure that we assign more experienced staff to more complex areas of the audit, in addition to a variety of other procedures. The second area is revenues. And revenues, again, by default, is an area of a higher audit risk. unless we can justify otherwise. And honestly, we try not to justify otherwise. We just take it as is. We consider it to be a higher risk area, and we perform our audit procedures based on that assumption. So we send a lot of confirmations to third parties. We confirm all the revenues that were submitted to the city by the county. We reconcile that to the city's records. We send confirmations to the states, to hotels. I'm sorry, to just one state, state of California, to hotels, just confirming basically all the amounts submitted to the city. Finally, the pension and OPEB areas are areas of also a special focus for us for several reasons. The accounting required for those areas are very complex. So the possibility for errors occurring are high. The dollar amounts are also significant. So we have to perform procedures to get comfortable with these numbers, and those procedures varies from reviewing the journal entries prepared by management to record transactions relating to pension and OPEB, to evaluating actuarial assumptions and making sure that they are reasonable under the circumstances, to communicating with the pension plan auditors, CalPERS auditors, and verifying the amount of assets invested, that the city invested with CalPERS, and a variety of other things as well. So those were the areas that we gave some special attention to during our audit process. In terms of the auditor's report, we have issued an unmodified opinion. In very simple terms, that is a type of opinion that you want. It's a clean opinion. It means that we didn't feel that we had to modify the standard opinion for any reasons. The opinion does state that the audit was conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and with government auditing standards. And in summary, an unmodified opinion means that we, the audit firm, believe that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects, that all accounting principles have been consistently applied, that all estimates are reasonable, and that all disclosures are properly reflected in the financial statements. Wanted to give you just a quick summary. This is a 30,000-foot view of the numbers in your financial statement. So this is really looking at the city as one entity, not giving special focus to any individual funds, and, and using the full accrual basis of accounting to look at those numbers. So on this slide, you will see the city's assets over the last 3 years. And as probably not news to you, the city has been doing well financially, and that explains the increase that you see in the cash and investments. There were some activities, minor activities in the capital assets, minor activities in the receivables, but numbers fairly consistent year over year. That new amount that you're seeing, the net OPEB asset that wasn't there in the prior years, that's the retiree medical benefits. This year there was a new standard that required you to account for those benefits the same way you account for pension. Luckily for Menlo Park, this plan is super funded, meaning that you have put money aside that exceed the amount of liability outstanding, and that's why it's showing as an asset. On the following slide here, slide number 11, is the composition of the city's liabilities. And obviously you see that the net pension liability is the highest number there. One of the reasons why we give this area as special attention. There were increases in the net pension liability. We have seen this across the board for all members of CalPERS. Some factors that contributed to that was change of assumptions, CalPERS changing the discount rate that they use in calculating the net pension liability, and also the earnings, the investment earnings, where they were lower than the assumed rate of return. Other than that, I believe that the numbers were fairly consistent year over year, but this is just to summarize to you the changes that occurred. In this coming slide, the net position, really just taking the city's assets minus liabilities, and that's normally your equity. We divide the equity into three main categories just to let the reader of the financial statement know what is spendable, what is not spendable. So the first category, the net investment in capital asset, is not in a spendable form, and most likely will never be in a spendable form. This is the amount that was invested in streets and roads and sidewalks and all those infrastructure assets. The restricted amounts are amounts that are restricted by law, by either a granting agency, bond agreement, the state of California for in case of like gas tax or TDA funds or so on. And then the unrestricted amount is the amount that is under council control. This amount most likely have been designated for certain purposes, but there are no legal restriction on it. So council can change their mind, can decide to spend it somewhere else. And again, this is just looking at your revenues minus your expenses. Please keep in mind that this is a 30,000-foot view, so it's taking depreciation on your infrastructure assets. This is not necessarily what you would see in your general fund, but it should be close. The bottom line here is that these results are very positive. Your revenues far exceeded your expenses, and that is reflected in your equity numbers, in your cash amounts. And this year, I believe that almost all revenues have seen increases, whether it's tax revenues, hotel taxes, or fees from developers. All those revenues have seen increases during the fiscal year. So if we were to focus on the net cost of service to tax revenue, this is an important ratio that we always provide to our clients. The net cost of service is the cost of running all city departments minus any revenues that those departments are able to generate on their own. So those revenues can be any fees charged to the customers, any fines, any grants that offset the cost of service. And the idea is to see whether you have sufficient tax revenue to cover the deficit in the cost of service. It is totally normal to have deficit in cost of service. We see this obviously in every city, and the intention is tax revenues would cover that. We get concerned when the tax revenue is below the net cost of service. Obviously, in your case, you see that your net cost of service was $30 million. Your tax revenues were 48. So that is obviously a very good cushion between the two. I do want to caution you that these numbers do fluctuate. If you had one year, if you had a grant, that would significantly reduce your net cost of service, and if next year you don't have that grant, you will see your net cost of service going up again. So just for FYI, but definitely this is, again, a 30,000-foot view of the finances. So if we were to just focus on the general fund, on this slide, what I try to do is to show you what is your unrestricted fund balance, regardless of what it was designated for, but no legal restriction on that portion of fund balance, and how does that compare to your annual expenditures, just for the general fund. The reason we focus on the general fund is because this is where most of your unrestricted resources reside. So most of the general fund normally have no legal restriction on it. The idea is to see if, in the very unlikely scenario that all your revenue sources stop coming in, how long can the city continue to pay bills? And we've determined that you can probably continue to pay bills for about 8 months. The minimum recommended ratio by the Government Finance Officers Association is about 2 to 4 months. That doesn't mean that this is where we recommend for you to be. Anytime you have less than 2 months worth of reserve, it's a concern. We start modifying our audit opinion that maybe the city won't be able to pay all its bills on time. So obviously you're far away from that. General fund looks healthy in our opinion. So just wanted to highlight that to you. In the next few slides, I'm just going to go quickly over your pension and your OPEB liabilities. So you're probably aware that the city have 2 types of plans with CalPERS, the safety members and the miscellaneous members. So this is for the safety members. Over the last 3 years, this information is from CalPERS. On the left side, how much assets the city have invested with CalPERS. The middle column is the total liability outstanding, and the difference between the two is the unfunded portion, which is reflected on your balance sheet as a liability. So as of the most recent actuarial study received from CalPERS, the city had about $25 million unfunded liability for the safety members. For the miscellaneous member, this number was $32.3 million as of the most recent actuarial evaluation. One of the things that we are required to highlight to you, and it's also reflected in your financial statements, that pension numbers are really a giant estimate, that so many assumptions go into that, into determining that number. One of the most significant assumptions is what we call the discount rate. So we wanted to show you what would your numbers look like if that discount rate is increased or decreased by 1%. Currently, your numbers were calculated based on the 7.15% discount rate. Honestly, it's probably useless to try to talk about the 8.15% because that's definitely not the direction where CalPERS is going. The 6.15 is probably the more relevant number. We know that CalPERS have already reduced their discount rate, so in fiscal year 19 we'll be using a lower discount rate than the 7.15, and my understanding that they will probably continue to lower that discount rate. I'm not sure until how far they are going to go, but what the numbers we hear is 6.5, something like that. So, but you can see that your numbers change significantly when this discount rate goes down by 1%. Your liability basically increase by $30 million if that number is less by 1%. So it's definitely a significant impact on the number. The city also offered retiree medical benefits. So this is a summary of the city's contribution to the plan over the last 3 years. And then, again, the funded status of the plan. This plan is, I don't know if there's anything called superfunded liability, but the plan is superfunded, which means that you have more assets invested in a trust that exceeds the outstanding liability. So that's obviously a very good position to be in. I think other than that, so this was really just a summary of the significant numbers in the financial statements. The next part are the required communication as your independent auditors. This part is boilerplate for the most part, and that is usually a good sign. Anytime we have to modify the language is normally to communicate issues and problems encountered during the audit. On slide number 22 is our responsibility as your independent auditors. We are mainly responsible for expressing an opinion on the city's financial statements. We're responsible for evaluating the internal control over financial reporting, evaluating compliance with laws and regulations, evaluating the tone at the top, making sure management is sending the right message to the rest of the organization about the importance of controls and consequences of committing fraud, the importance of correcting audit findings, and so on. We're responsible for ensuring that your financial statements are clear and transparent, and then finally we're responsible for communicating with the City Council. Management have many responsibilities in this process. Management is ultimately responsible for the financial statements. Before we actually release the financial statements, we do obtain a representation letter from management acknowledging that they have taken responsibility for the financials, that they have disclosed to us all known facts, that they have recorded all transactions. So our audit does not relieve management from its responsibility, but our audit provides reasonable assurance that the numbers prepared by management are accurate and complete. Management is also responsible for establishing and maintaining internal control over financial reporting, for making all financial records available to us during the audit process, for establishing control that will prevent and detect fraud, inform us of all known and suspected fraud, comply with laws and regulations, and take corrective action on any audit findings. In terms of independence, it is solely the audit firm's responsibility to maintain independence. So the city does not really have to participate in that process, but we have to evaluate our independence constantly from, on an individual basis, any members of our firm having any kind of relationship with the city or city personnel. This can impact independence. Any additional service that we offer the city can impact independence. And then also independence in appearance. If we appear to be maybe too close to management and we're always out whining and dining with management, even though it may not necessarily impact independence, but it may not necessarily look good for the public, given that we are the independent auditors. So we have rules and regulations that we follow to ensure that we maintain that independence in substance and in appearance. In terms of timing of the audit, we believe that the audit was performed timely in accordance with the time frame agreed to with the city before. I'm not going to bother you with those, but these are the new accounting standards that we considered during the year. We have discussed those with management. Management have made a determination which ones are applicable, which ones are not. and we just ensure that the city has implemented them correctly. I mentioned that some of the numbers in the financials are estimated numbers, so wanted to list for you some examples of those estimated numbers at the bottom of that slide. Also on this slide, I wanted to list or highlight for you some of the more significant disclosures in your financial statements. These note disclosures are designed to give you better understanding of what makes up your numbers. For example, your investments. It will give you more information about what kind of risks your investments are exposed to and what ratings those investments are and when do they mature and a variety of other information. I'm pleased to say that we encountered no difficulties during the audit. When I say no difficulties, every audit has its challenges, and as long as we're able to resolve them within a normal time frame, then we don't consider those to be difficulties. But there are no audits that we just have no questions and no back and forth. Every audit will have some of those, and Menlo Park is no different. There were some adjustments and reclassifying entries, and management has posted all of those adjustments. There were no significant risk or exposures that were identified to us, other than just the regular claims and legal matters communicated to us by the attorneys. We identified the following deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting. I don't believe we considered that to be a material weakness, though. I mean, we are listing it as a significant deficiency, which is a lower level than a material weakness. But what we notice is that the closing, and probably due to turnover in staff, that the closing procedures, we didn't feel that they were as effective as we would have liked them to be. What that means is that after the city closed its books and we came to do the audit, we started realizing that maybe not everything was recorded, or maybe certain things were recorded based on just an email from a department saying, please accrue this or please do that. And then after taking a closer look, the amounts needed to be adjusted. We felt like this type of communication was not sufficient to record the transaction. So there was just a lot of back and forth relating to that. Management has provided a plan on how it's going to address that, and we normally would review that in the following year and see whether the plan was actually followed through or not. I think on slide number 30, just wanted to let you know that we actually did request, I apologize, we did request representations from management prior to issuance of our report. That was the management representation letter that I was referring to. And that we're not aware of any significant accounting or auditing matters for which management has consulted with other firms. Normally, if management is seeking a second opinion on any audit or financial issues, and they hire another audit firm or another CPA firm to get a second opinion, that CPA firm should consult with us just to make sure that they have all the facts before they provide a second opinion to the city. We're not aware that this has occurred. Other than our engagement letter and the representation letter, we had no other significant communication with management. There were no material uncertainties relating to events and conditions, and we have not become aware of any fraud or illegal act. This last slide is a listing of the new accounting standards that are coming your way. Normally, we discuss with management as they become, as we get closer to those years, and just make sure that management is aware of what will need to be done in order to comply with those standards. We also host a training seminar every year that is free for the city to attend, and in that seminar we go into a lot of depth and detail about those new accounting standards and what we need to do now in order to get ready for them. Other than that, of course, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, but I do want to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to provide service to the city, and happy to answer your questions.
Do we have any questions on the dais? I have one thing to go over, but first I'm going to ask Councilmember Carlton, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, and just because I'm sure we'll get an email on it, City Manager Robinson, just you're reviewing the procedure for the year-end closing.
Yes, the Finance Department is working on that.
Okay, that's great. So that's something we'll probably review at the end of next year, just to make sure, as he indicated.
We can certainly keep the council abreast of what's happening, but I think that's really an internal issue, and that the finance manager is well aware of the steps that need to be taken. And Dan, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Just that part of the plan is to actually conduct training ahead of the next year-end close, so that we will be addressing that throughout the year rather than just at the year-end.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know there's been a lot of turnover internally, and I'm sure that has contributed to that. So, Councilmember, I'm sorry, Ms. Robinson.
If I could just add, I think that this demonstrates the value of the annual audit, that it really does help keep us focused on the methods and appropriate measures that we need to take as a department and as a city. So while we're always hopeful that we'll pass through the audit with no comments, I think it's really valuable both to me and to the council to get the auditor's feedback.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the steps. Appreciate the audit. Appreciate the steps to address the issues in it. And overall, very, very strong. So thank you. So we need a motion to accept the audit.
Mayor Mueller, we do have a public comment on this
Oh,
item.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that because I was actually looking at it. So, Ms. Bramlett.
I'll be brief. I have a few questions. How many years has this firm been doing our audit? And my next question is, are we changing our auditing firm in accordance with best practices? So there is a certain period of time after which the firm should be new, and I don't know if we've passed that or not. Next, as we heard, this is a daunting amount of information. And I would like to recommend that, especially for our financial information, which is one of the most important documents in a city, in a business, in anything, that we increase the opportunities for the public to come and ask questions. And I think it'd even be useful for our commissioners, such as a couple of sessions, maybe where the document is broken into, a few parts, allow us to come and ask questions. I kind of suspect if I had to, I think it's too, it's pretty overwhelming here, and it's daunting and it's intimidating, and I think we could do better, and I think it's important. I would also like to have details as to our public-private partnerships. So if we have an audit once a year, I do know that some of our public-private partnerships, the public has called for a performance audit, and they have called for that over a period of years. And some cities have internal auditors. So I would like to have those kind of details added somewhere so we would have more transparency and more insight into the full picture, even to the level of employees. I know I exchanged some emails regarding a difference between the number of employees in this report and what I saw at a governmental transparency website. And it had to do with when. It's kind of too complicated to get into here, but there was a major discrepancy. And so maybe we could put temporary employees here, or I just think the public has the right to have an opportunity to ask more questions.
All right. So, well, my recommendation on this is, rather than us go through that now, that we, Finance Auditing Committee, some of these issues that were raised, we go ahead and look at them there. Council,
We'll make sure that they do.
Yep. An agreement? Okay, great. Any other comments from council members? Councilmember Carlton, do you have a comment?
No.
Okay, so if we can have a motion to go ahead and accept the audit.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second? A motion and second to receive and file the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended January 30th, 2018. So we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I second.
Let's go ahead and vote. Councilmember Carlton, can you go ahead and give us your vote verbally?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Next item is item I2, approve the terms of a successor agreement between the City of Menlo Park and the Menlo Park Police Officers Association. Administrative Services Director Lenka Diaz will make the presentation. Good evening, Ms. Diaz.
Okay. Good evening. Get set up here. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Mueller and council members. Tonight, I'm very happy to be here this evening to present this item to you. We're requesting your approval of the tentative agreement that was reached between the city's negotiating team and the Police Officers Association, and that was reached after approximately 21 months of negotiations. First, I'd like to do an overview of our public outreach and negotiation processes, then highlight the key economic terms of the tentative agreement. First, the Police Officers Association is a bargaining unit that represents 42 non-supervisory law enforcement positions in our city. It includes the classifications of police officer and police personnel, as well as police recruits who are folks that are placed into the police academy and then upon graduation transition to a police officer position. So in 2011, City Council created a policy to incorporate public input into the labor negotiations process. And in compliance with this policy, we released a staff report on January 23rd, 2017. And that invited the public to comment on upcoming negotiations with the Police Officers Association. And that public input opportunity occurred at the City Council meeting on February 7th, 2017. And at that meeting, there was no public comment. The city then began preparing for negotiations using the bargaining principles that align with service and financial priorities set by the City Council. And throughout the negotiations process, the city's negotiating team strived to achieve agreements that maintain or enhance service to the community, fiscal sustainability, and recruitment and retention efforts. So, summary of our process. After receiving authority from the 2017 City Council, the City and Police Officers Association formally began negotiations on March 7th of 2017. After we were unable to reach agreement after about 10 formal negotiation meetings, the City and the Police Officers Association agreed to enter into a pre-impasse mediation, and that occurred on August 3rd of 2017. After that, some additional issues were raised, and the City and the Police Officers Association did continue to meet in efforts to reach a tentative agreement, which we were finally able to achieve on November 28th of 2018. The Police Officers Association immediately ratified that tentative agreement the following day, and due to the timing of the City Council transition, the closure of city administration offices, we delayed a City Council vote on the ratification of the agreement until this evening. This did allow us to release the staff report for this agenda item after the holidays. That was part of the delay as well. We wanted to make sure and be transparent and give the public time to comment. And so that was released on January 14th. So with that background, I'll now review the terms of the tentative agreement that staff is recommending for your approval tonight. The first is the term of the contract. The city estimates a savings of about $30,000 each year that we do not have to enter into negotiations with the bargaining unit. That's based on the contract services that we use for a labor attorney who often serves as our chief negotiator, as well as the staff time involved in negotiations. So with the term of this agreement being approximately 2 years and 7 months, we're showing a savings of $30,000 in 2019 and then $30,000 in 2020. Next are the wage increases. The first wage increase in this tentative agreement is due to be effective February 3rd, 2019. It includes a 6% general salary increase with a fiscal impact of $204,000. This wage increase includes 3% that was intended for fiscal year 2017-18 and 3% that was intended for fiscal year 2018-19. These percentages represent the increases that were agreed to early on in negotiations when we had hoped to reach an agreement much sooner than today. And so the intent was to provide those members of the association those increases at the beginning of each of those fiscal years. So instead, this tentative agreement of the 6% increase would represent the first general salary increase for the Police Officers Association since July of 2016. And the 6% is not retroactive and is not compounded back those 2 years that we've missed. And the $204,000 fiscal impact number represents an impact to total compensation, not just the base salary. So we've included in here the increase to the base salary and then the impacts of that increase on contributions to retirement and other pays that the officers and corporals receive. The second wage increase included in the tentative agreement is a 3% general salary increase effective in July of 2019. So the additional total compensation impact during that 2019-20 fiscal year would be $460,000. And then the final increase in this contract is scheduled for July 2020. It is a 3.5% general salary increase, and that additional total compensation impact during the 2020-2021 fiscal year would be $767,000. So taking all of those numbers and compounding and adding them over those 3 years, the total compounded wages are just over $1.4 million. And again, that represents increases received over 4 fiscal years from July of 2017 through August of 2021. The third item are increases to the benefits program. This represents the overall estimated additional cost to the city for the contributions it makes to employee health benefits. And depending on an employee's health plan choice, this represents an increased contribution of about $26 to $50 per month each year. And then lastly, a one-time payout of 58 hours. And this is a non-pensionable amount, and it can be used in the form of leave or it can be cashed out. And that total of the key economic items of this agreement represent about $1.6 million. There were some additional negotiated items. There was an increase for the on-call detective pay. It was a very minimal amount, only $3,700 over the term of the contract was the total amount there. We captured a lot of practices that were happening but not captured in the agreement. We eliminated a cash out of our cafeteria plan where employees shop for benefits. We do have one outstanding item that's mentioned in the contract that we will continue to explore. The first step of that process includes an action that the Police Officers Association must take and must pay for. And then there were several areas of the agreement in which we tried to clarify and clean up some language. So overall, the fiscal impact of the tentative agreement is within the city council authority that was given to the negotiating team in 2017 and 2018. The impact is also within our assumptions in the 10-year fiscal forecast, as well as the CalPERS actuarial wage growth that is assumed. And lastly, it's we do receive some clarity around the salary and benefits for this bargaining group since we are able to secure an agreement that goes through the year 2021 of August. So that is the presentation I have for you. I would like to thank all of the members of the cities and the Police Officers Association negotiation teams for their collaborative efforts and then for committing to this process. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on the dais? Councilmember Carlton, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion?
We do have one public comment.
Oh, we have a public comment. Sorry, I have to go back. I have to get used to the habit of this again. Ms. Bramlett.
This comment pertains to this item and the one that follows. They're very similar. Actually, at first I want to comment to the comment about there was no public comment. That could have been because someone missed the meeting. Maybe the report wasn't there. At the city manager's budget workshop last year, we got the document the day of the meeting. I mean, there could be a number of reasons why there isn't public comment, which is why I really urge council to consider adding just even a checkoff. It's not a requirement the reports have to go through a committee, but I think it would help to embed public engagement and let people come and ask in a less intimidating environment. My main comment here is, can we start to see some benchmarking information? I mean, I hear in terms of how many employees we have in our salaries. I mean, we hear, oh, they're leaving, we don't pay them enough, but I haven't really seen the hard and fast data. And I do want to comment that I think our police are among our highest paid employees in Menlo Park. And then I have, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but I raised that up. And 42 seems like a lot of police for our overall stated employee count. But again, with temporaries and these others, you know, maybe we have close to 600. I'm not really sure, actually. So, yeah. So anyway, I think that would be good to have that benchmarking information for comparative data.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Any follow-up questions? Councilmember Carlton, any follow-up questions?
No.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I move.
Okay, so we have a motion to go ahead and approve the terms of the successor agreement between the City of Menlo Park and the Menlo Park Police Officers Association. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Let's go ahead and vote. Just one second.
Aye.
Okay, Councilmember Carlton's vote is aye, and I apologize, I'm getting my system set up.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we're going to go ahead now and move on to I3, adopt resolutions 6481 and 6482 to amend the city salary schedule. Administrative Services Director Alenka Diaz will make the presentation. Ms. Diaz.
Thank you. So tonight, also recommending adoption of these two resolutions, each amend the city's salary schedule. And the amendments are cataloging two actions that City Council has now approved already. The first represents a 1% salary increase City Council approved on September 26, 2017. And that action committed the city to implementing a short-term disability insurance program for two of its bargaining units. and to implement that program as close to January 1st, 2019 as possible. And the selected program required that each member of those bargaining units have a deduction from salary of up to 1%. And so the salary increase and that deduction was to coincide and happen at the same time. So we were able to implement that January 6, 2019. So that is the first resolution and amendment that is before you. The second salary amendment represents the action you just took, inclusive of the tentative agreement with the Police Officers Association. The first wage increase is to go into effect February 3rd, 2019. So this second amendment represents that increase on that effective date.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and go to public comment. I have a card for you, Ms. Bramlett. No? Okay. So we'll go ahead then and thank you. I appreciate it. So we'll go ahead now and are there any questions on the dais? Ms. Carlton, Councilmember Carlton, do you have any questions?
No, but if I have any questions, I'll speak up. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Nash. No. Oh, your light's on. Okay. Can I have a motion?
I move.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt resolutions 6481 and 6482 to amend the city salary schedule. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Vice Mayor Taylor seconded. Let's go ahead and move to a vote. Councilmember.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, our next item this evening is the informational item J1 2019 City Council Policy Priorities and Work Plan. There's no staff presentation as it's an informational item, but staff is available for questions. I just suggest to council members, if the suggestions are some that you think are questions or something that you want council to sort of discuss now or ask about collectively, that's great. Otherwise, we'll have a very robust discussion on Saturday. Any questions? No. Councilmember Carlton, do you have any questions? Okay, we have a public comment card. Ms. Bramlett?
First, I want to thank you for changing your meeting to Saturday, and I found the push email and the form to submit feedback all very good, and I want to thank you for this. I don't know what the agenda will be, but I'm optimistic. Regarding this, we need more financial information, and I have read the capital improvement project budget carefully, and the other part carefully too, but the CIPs even more. I mean, these, and I'm sure staff put a lot of work into this, but there are no numbers. And without the numbers, how can we make decisions? And I know you've heard from a few people on the Finance and Audit Committee. I started attending those meetings out of a desire to better inform myself as to our finances here. And you know, a lot of them are recommended for adoption without any cost timeline information, and then quite a few are studies that we can assume will probably lead to a project down the road. And so I don't have any, you know, solution here, and I'm sure it will take a lot of work to get to one, but I just don't see how between now and Saturday, without those numbers, we can really have an effective decision-making process. So that's my main concern here. And I think it's also really important that commissioners serving and the general public have more insight into our overall budget, because money is not unlimited. And, you know, I've seen over the few years since I started coming to these meetings, people coming, pushing their pet project without perhaps being aware of, you know, other competing projects and a need to prioritize them, and that we don't have unlimited money. I mean, you're not the federal government, right? You can't just print more when you need it. So I just think we need we need a real improvement here in the level of detail that we have financially in these projects, our CIP projects.
Okay, so I can go ahead and speak to that. So typically our council goal setting meetings actually have started with a presentation, and I remember Mr. Piqueros' presentation last year going over the budget. Our CIP is listing is actually pretty detailed, though it might not be. I think the document that has been provided was really to provide an outline for people to see what the projects are, but we go into great, and I know this because I'm one of those people who typically comes with a project and I'm told there's no money allocated for that yet, or it's going to cost this much, or so we do get into a very, I expect, get into a very robust discussion about that, and also the discussion about using one-time monies for, or whether or not we're creating continuing obligations. So I appreciate your concern, Ms. Bramlett. It's not here in front of us tonight, but rest assured, my experience in the past and those goal-setting meetings are we do get pretty detailed and frankly very detailed at the start of the meeting to understand what we look like from a budget perspective as we go into that. And to be candid, usually professional staff is telling us be conservative in your spend. So, but it's a good point, and I appreciate that, and we can do more to next year as we go into that. I will remember as mayor or as no longer mayor, but as in my service to the new mayor, that maybe we should provide a little bit more information in what we provide in this meeting so people can look at it. But I don't think it shouldn't be a reflection that we don't do that. We absolutely do that in the meeting. Any other comments on that, folks? Councilmember Carlton?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, so that being said, then we're going to go ahead and move on to city manager reports. Ms. Robinson?
I have nothing further to report tonight. Just a reminder to everybody that we have goal setting in the council chambers on Saturday beginning at 9 o'clock.
Okay, then we're going to move on to item L, council member reports. I'm going to run through mine real quickly, and I know some other people have them. So just so you guys know, as a matter of practice, so as mayor, I get to set the agenda right, approve the agenda. I am not going to make it a practice to add something to the agenda of my own desire without bringing it to you guys and asking you about it. And then also as a matter of practice, if I get there's a council policy that says it takes 2 people to do it. I'm not going to do that either. So if one of you ever comes to me and says, Ray, I want to put something on it, I'm going to list it on here in council member reports in black so people can see that you've made that request, and then you can go ahead and ask me and the council to talk about it then. So you're not going to have to think about whether or not we're talking about something. If someone has a request, it'll go on and we'll talk about it as a council. The 3 items that I have here tonight, I think you guys have heard about before. So L1 is the Sunshine Calendar Transparency Policy. That's a discussion the council would have around creating a policy that would list council members would keep track of what they're doing business, city work, so people could transparently see that. I would like to try to bring that to a future date. That's just going to require work with the city attorney's office primarily. Is there any I'm just looking for consensus so that I can bring that as a later date. Does that work for you guys?
Yes. And would it be an informational item? Would it be on the?
So the next time it would come to us, it would be actually, I actually would put it down for an item that would, I don't, Bill, can we point a subcommittee tonight, or does it have to come back with a more robust description of what we're doing? I think it has to come back, right?
I think it should come back with some kind of general idea discussion, and then whether the council wants to establish a subcommittee and kind of what the direction should be.
So I'll work with the city attorney to do that since you guys have agreed I can. That works. Yes, Councilmember Carlton, do you have any comment?
No, it's fine.
Okay, the next item, L2, is travel policy discussion. And so late last year, the council gave some input into a travel policy, but it has not yet come back to the city council for approval. I'd actually like this council, I was actually unfortunately unable to attend that evening, and there are some things I'd like to have added to that policy. Specifically, there's some practices that the city attorney has advised me to do when traveling in the use of the use of the name, the City of Menlo Park, that I'd like to see incorporated into that policy, and also curious to get all of your feedback before it comes back in final form. So if it's already scheduled to come back for approval, but I'd like to actually bring it back for input and direction if that's agreeable to all of you. Yes. Yes. Does that work for you, Councilmember Carlton?
Sure.
Okay, and then L3 is unincorporated Menlo Park annexation policy. You remember earlier this evening, Mr. Ferris came and spoke to us, and I think that we'll discuss specifically the triangle in the council goal setting meeting and the status of that. But what I'd like to bring forward in calendar would be a discussion about an overall policy of a consideration of a policy where we as a matter of course, encourage annexation of unincorporated areas and create a city process that provides more certainty to applicants of what that looks like, working with the county of how we'll go ahead and do that with the county every time it comes forward, so that applicants will have an understanding when they get into it of this is what the timeline looks like. And part of that that's motivated this is that in the work of the annexation policy and talking and the work around the triangle annexation and talking with Don Horsley and the folks at the county, they also are very interested in just trying to put together sort of a formula of how we do this every time, beyond just the rote of this is what LAFCO does, but really like a rule of engagement between us with, and then a sort of a formula that we look at, if that works for you all. Yeah, we have agreement. Councilmember Carlton, does that work for you?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead then and see, does anyone else have any council member reports? I think Councilmember Nash and and Vice Mayor Taylor. Great. Who wants to go first? Okay, Councilmember Nash.
So I'm reporting about two meetings that were attended by Mayor Pro Tem Taylor and Interim City Manager Robinson and myself to discuss the Stanford General Use Plan. And we met with County Manager Mike Kaligi and representatives from adjacent districts, adjacent communities from Redwood City, Atherton, East Palo Alto, and Menlo Park got together to discuss the impacts of the Stanford expansion and to coordinate our responses to ensure that these impacts outside Santa Clara County are fully mitigated. And in addition to that, the three of us also met with Supervisor Joe Simidian and his aide, Christina Loquist, to discuss the Stanford General Use Plan and also the full mitigation of any impacts. And we'll continue to report out as we proceed. Any additions?
My report is about myself, Councilmember Nash, and our interim city manager, Starla, attended the New Mayors and Council Member Academy, which was very beneficial. I actually have the flyer here. That was January 16th through 18th in Sacramento. So I just wish that we were able to attend right after we were sworn in, because there was so much information that would have been useful for that 6-week period, at least for myself. There was also discussion around ethics, and we had to do a sexual harassment training and one other training, the ethics training. And I got a piece of information that I haven't shared with our staff yet, but it is the City of Pleasanton's priority work plan, and the layout I love, and it is accessible online. But just the way it's exactly what Ms. Bramlett is looking for, where things are clear and it is not difficult to read, and also it's an easier way to have the community have input. And that's my report.
Excellent. Councilmember Carlton, do you have any report?
I'll do a full report when I come back.
Okay. Any report? All right. So I think with that, our meeting, let me double check and make sure. I think our meeting's adjourned. Did I miss anything, Ms. Herron? All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.